Alrighty, today we're going to be taking a look at an old RPG. The first entry of Enix's flagship franchise, called Dragon Warrior. Or as it's better known today, Dragon Quest. This game not only started off a long-lasting series of games, it also popularized the RPG genre, at least in Japan anyway, and set the template for other RPGs such as Mother and Final Fantasy. The game's story is very basic. You are the descendant of a legendary hero, and the kingdom's princess has been kidnapped by your main antagonist, called the Dragon Lord. You have to collect some important items, then rescue the princess, collect more important items, and then go to the Dragon Lord's castle and kill him. Now, while the game is lacking in the story department, the game does its best to make you feel like you're on a big adventure by relying on atmosphere, and admittedly, it does this job very well. You have this vast world to explore with very few towns that are far apart, which creates a sense of urgency as you explore this big world. You'll often find yourself wondering if you can get through your next objective, retrieve the item you need, and get to the nearest town before you die. You have no party to back you up. It's just you on your own, so if your character dies, it's game over. Okay, not really. You'll just respawn back at the castle and lose half your gold. I'll come back to that in a sec. Luckily, you won't be facing enemies in droves like in other RPGs. You'll just be facing monsters one-on-one. The battles are in this first-person view that, while I do very much prefer the third-person side view that you see in other RPGs like Final Fantasy, in Dragon Warrior it's actually very appropriate and it reinforces the feeling that it's you on this big adventure. In a way, it's like Doom. Odd comparison, I know, but just hear me out. Yeah, you have that icon at the bottom with the Doom guy's face on it, but you really don't get the feeling like you are controlling a character. The Doom guy has no name, no personality. That face is just there to show you how close you are to death. But thanks to the way Doom is, it does feel like it's you that's going around and slaughtering these hordes of demons, and that's the feeling you get here with Dragon Warrior. That and the third-person side view is kinda pointless if you're just going to face monsters one-on-one. You can easily get lost in this game, as this was made back in the day where RPGs didn't give you a clear direction on where to go, and you had to write down notes on what the NPCs were saying to get a good idea on where to go. Have no fear though. In this modern day and age, we have this wonderful invention known as the internet that gives you access to maps and walkthroughs that give you a clear direction on where to go. But you can still play the old-fashioned way if you really want to challenge yourself. The game, however, is a grind fest. Each area has a difficulty spike, and in order to be strong enough for the next area, you will have to do hours upon hours of grinding. You gain experience very slowly, and you'll have to grind not only for experience, but for gold as well, as you will have to buy better weapons, armor, and items. I'm pretty sure most of this game's length is composed of grinding. Also, be sure to save as often as you can. There's only one save point in this game, so be sure to leave when necessary, because if you die, you lose a whopping half of your gold. And believe me, you will need that gold. And when you learn the return spell, use it very often. Now, admittedly, doing nothing but grinding for hours on end can be very boring, so I'd recommend either playing the Super Famicom version or the Game Boy Color version of the game, as those variations are more generous with the amount of experience points and gold you earn after battles, and cuts down the amount of grinding you have to do by quite a significant amount. Yeah, the NPCs won't talk in yay old butchered English in those versions of the game, but I'd say it's worth it in the long run. The game's music is excellent. Each track fits its respective area perfectly, though for some the cave theme may sound very harsh, an issue that was fixed in the Super Famicom version of the soundtrack, which is actually much more pleasing to the ear. Allow me to make a comparison. Dragon Warrior is very dated by today's standards, but it's still very enjoyable. Although there are some things I do have to say here. If story is a big thing you look for when playing an RPG, then I can't really recommend this due to how basic the story is. However, if you don't mind the simple story and you're looking for a lighthearted adventure, enjoy turn-based combat, and have a lot of patience for grinding, well then... there are other early RPGs I'd recommend over this, but this is still a good choice, especially if you want to see how the series began.